Well, peeps, what's
Hello.
going on?
Hello, Canada.
What's happening? Greetings, Canada. Greetings, CW. And Tiffany, how you doing, girl? We're here back with another history discussion. I love it. I love these ones. They
Yeah,
get pretty interesting. We do have some friends joining us right now. You got the two of us, lovely guys. What's going on, Corn Poppy Pop?
What's that
You
happening?
lucky
What's that
ducks get to
happening?
stare of us. What's happening? Shadow movie. How are you, my friend? Much love, buddy. Raves, what's going on, Raves?
Hello, Raves.
Trippy.
Trippy,
Trippy, what's up,
Shadow,
buddy?
Corn Pop, of course.
Shadow, new friend, guys. New
CW,
friend in the
hello.
mix here.
Hello.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Left the
This one
life,
goes
but I'm super
with
busy at the moment.
paranormal
Leave you
into.
in the background. All right. What's up, G? How you doing, man? Let's go with the War of 1812, guys.
Uh,
It was a bloody war. It was. I don't think it
Rocco's
lasted very long.
Rocco's paintballing while I'm bored in the truck.
Oh shit! What a guy, man! Leaves you in the truck and goes paintball.
Tiffany, I got a suggestion for you.
What's
Are
going on,
you?
buddy? What's
Yeah,
up,
are
Blake?
you? Do they have a little station up at the top there near the parking lot where you can go and you can buy extra paint and you can get your tanks refilled? If they do, there should also be a selection of paintball grenades
Oh, you hit him
that
with
they
one of
have.
those.
Yeah, what you want to do is slip one into his back pocket and hold on to the pin, and when he goes to walk away, just pull the pin. That
I've
that'll make for some fun.
no kidding. I've seen them, Trippy. I've seen them two places here for sure. Why you can't get them out there, bud? You can definitely work something out. I can hook you up.
What are Pocky One chips?
The one chip challenge, the hottest chip in the world. They do a new one every
Oh,
year. Oh yeah, it's like 10 million
God.
Scoville. It's stupid hot. I'm on the hunt in Atlantic Canada. I can pick some up for you, Trippy. That's no problem, man. Amethyst, how are you?
Hey,
Much love,
Amethyst.
girl. What's happening? What's happening? Appreciate you guys coming out.
Trust me,
He
Tiffany.
said he can't find
Those
me.
are fun. Those little paint grenades. So, oh,
All right, Trippy. I'll grab you some, man. Don't tell him. Just get him one and make him do it. All right, that works. I'd film it if I did that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, give him one. Tell him to eat it. CJ tried that and it about killed him. It was bad. It was bad. I had to
really?
cut the camera and oh yeah. I had to cut the camera and yeah, he was having trouble. It was bad.
No
All
kidding.
right, yeah, Trippy, message
Hmm.
me on Facebook or Messenger or whatever, Trip. I got you, buddy.
Wow.
So, according to records, the 1812 war, it wasn't very long. It was a bloody war, and it was started by the Britons, Great Britain.
Well,
They were fighting France.
it was instigated by the British.
Of course.
Um, now, I'm sure when Scott gets here, he'll have different ways to say it.
Oh yeah.
Surprise, surprise, surprise! It wasn't it wasn't the bloody Americans. We weren't out spoiling for a fight. In fact, um, you could
Right?
almost say we were kind of a second stage nation at that second world nation at that point. We weren't
Uh,
we weren't in any way, shape, or
no,
form.
you guys were just a
Uh,
baby nation,
yeah, yeah,
just newborn.
yeah. We
Trippy
we we
gave
were.
his summary at the beginning here. He
Oh,
said
did
the
he?
British old Canada burnt down the OG White House. The end.
Yeah, pretty much,
Fun fact. Fun
pretty much.
fact about that: they did burn down Washington D.C. and the old White House, but it would have been a lot worse for the Americans had there not been like a crazy storm or something that went through and put out some of the fires.
Yep.
It was yeah, it was. I thought that was interesting.
See, never doubt the Americans got Mother Nature on our side.
Eh,
She's got her ass. So,
no
uh,
kidding.
no, what
Hey, Marsha.
as Chris Masha, as Chris was saying, the British were fighting it, duking it out with Napoleon,
Hmm.
and not doing very well.
No,
And in order to keep their naval forces going, oh, you're gonna leave me up here, dirty dog.
no, no. I'm
Um,
checking. I got a message on. It might be
in order to
the guest
in order
speaker.
to in order to maintain their navy, and
Nope.
also to stop any trade with France, because we were neutral. We hey, we had done our thing.
Yeah.
We were trying to develop as a nation. We didn't give a damn. We were just making money off of the trade. Yeah, greedy Americans. What can I say?
Right.
So we were trading with both the British and the
All right,
French.
Trippy. What's up,
And
buddy?
what was happening was the British would come across and they would impound American ships that were not bound to trade with them, and they would impress. And no, I'm not talking about. Wow, that's cool. To basically
Yeah.
conscript the sailors, and ultimately they impounded over 100 ships, American ships, and over some 6,000 sailors to kind of bolster their forces up.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, what really kind of started and lit a slow fuse was in 1807, and there was a British ship called the Leopard, came across the American ship, the Chesapeake, and the British demanded that the Americans surrender, and the Americans said no, and the British basically didn't wait; they just fired away at the Chesapeake, and it took about 10 minutes, killed 3 men, wounded
Oh
some
shit.
14 or so other ones. But one of the reasons why we said no is serving on the Chesapeake were four deserters from the British Navy, I guess it was.
Oh shit.
And yeah, and well, I don't
That's
know that
not
we
good.
necessarily, I don't know that we necessarily knew that they were deserters. We just knew that they were Brits that were serving on the ship. But basically, the British boarded the Chesapeake and took the four sailors away, which ultimately started to really piss off America, because this was done not over in England. This was done over on U.S. in U.S. waters. Not
Oh
that we had,
wow.
established a big, huge thing, but it was on
Right.
our side of the pond, not on England's. So that really kind of pissed us off, and the fact that the British continued to impound ships and impress men, really
Yeah.
really started to aggravate people. And surprisingly, it was, and I'm not picking sides here. I'm reporting what is what
Oh
what is
shit.
reported in history. But it was pushed by the Republicans and supported by members of the Northwestern frontier. which, of course, as you'll remember, we had the
Yeah.
Louisiana Purchase, which kind of opened up the what we know now as the Midwest, but at that point was the West. And we went on with that.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
welcome up, the brother of knowledge. My
Hey,
brother Mark. What's
hello,
going on?
Mark. How you doing, sir?
How you doing?
Not too bad.
He's
Can you hear me all right?
talking about how this thing started. This this war.
So that was the British side. Then we had the whole thing with William Henry Harrison and Tecumseh, which was a whole another thing that kind of ignited the whole thing on a different front. When Tecumseh and Harrison kind of didn't get along, and that's an understatement.
I thought Tecumseh was the Native American.
He was.
Person.
What had happened was Harrison was involved in going around, and everybody's heard this. How the Americans went around and took more and more of the Indian territory and kind of pushed them around into tribal areas and reservations until he came across Tecumseh. And Tecumseh kind of went, "No, I'm not doing it," and that pissed Harrison off. Long story short, they ultimately met face to face in the Louisiana Purchase territory, exchanged some really nasty words in
Christina.
front of the governor out there, and that was really kind of the start of that whole thing. Tecumseh started trying to recruit tribes in the south, the southern end of the territory. And
hey, J Mac, much love, buddy.
Harrison got pissed off about it and took an army, if you will, up to what was called Prophetstown, which is where Tecumseh's base was. And they basically burned Tecumseh's. The Indians attacked them first on the way, and after a pitched battle, the Indians basically lost. Harrison got into into Prophetstown, burned it to the ground, and this is it's another one of those kind of dark things we were talking about the American history. They dug up Indian graves and scalped and mutilated the Indian bodies, which was really. Yeah, it was really not a good idea because if anything really pissed him off, that was kind of going above and beyond. From that point forward, Tecumseh was pretty much against the Americans, joined up with the British, and started messing with the Americans on the Western Front. All about this time, the British were still working at trying to get more of the ships and impound more men. Had set
that part's overblown a little bit.
Well,
the French were impressing sailors from the Americans as well. U.S. could have just as well been at war with France. Instead, the U.S. purchased Louisiana.
Oh shit! Well, that'll do it.
Well, I thought
they were fighting over a state. Weren't they fighting over a state or something? They were going to give up a state, and they were pissed off about that. I have a question for Mark.
No. U.S. was trying to be neutral, and at the time, the French and the British were fighting in the Napoleonic Wars overseas. Yeah. And the thing about being neutral in a world war is,
it's hard to do. It's really hard to do.
So you have them both saying, "Okay, well, French says you can't." They don't want them to trade, the Americans to trade with either side, right? So both sides are stopping ships, and this person has a little bit of a French accent, or this person's from. There was a book that I read that basically chalked it up to an immigration issue, right? In Britain, if you're a subject of the king at the time, you don't just leave. You pledge loyalty to the king. You're subject to draft when in times of war. So you could very well have been subject to that and then move to the States. Whereas in a lot of cases, the Americans are like, well, now they're American. And Britain's like, well, they left. They deserted their king. So that, I guess, would be the opposite side of that.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Mark. We've done some investigations like recently at the Battlefield House here in Hamilton, where part of or a battle of the 1812 war went down. We've done this and that. Now we've learned that a lot of people died there in some of the story. But what can you tell me? What actually happened in Hamilton here at the Battlefield House? Like, what happened? What part of the war was that? Was that at the end, at the beginning?
No,
I
it
know
was
a bunch of red coats beat a bunch of blue coats.
It was.
That happened a lot.
Yeah.
We're skipping ahead a few
We
years.
sucked, okay?
Basically, there's an interesting tie-off at the end, though. But basically, at the start of the war, I think the Americans severely underestimated the British forces, the efforts that they could put up.
Yeah.
This is something Brock was important in organizing, because he was the head of government. He wasn't just the head of the military, and the logistics required to not only have people with equipment, but to feed them and organize them. If you're undermanned and undergunned, you have to know where to deploy people, and where to build forts and where to build fortifications. And that's something that the British were managing fairly well, except for the one guy in Windsor, but that's later. But basically, in 1813, the Americans had taken, basically crossed into the border of what is now Canada through Fort George. They've taken Fort George, and the British are in full retreat, dumping ammunition in creeks. They're just full blown trying to get to Burlington Heights, because the Americans' ultimate goal was to take Kingston, which is their main port. They take Kingston, basically the war's over. At least that's how the British felt. So there's a canal crossing from Burlington. So if you know Hamilton, where Dundon Castle is now, part of the grounds of Dundon Castle is the foundation for the fortifications made in 1815 in a desperate effort just to build something to finally, we can't retreat anymore. We'll build a fortification. We'll try to fight off the big American army, and in the meantime, we'll everyone else will retreat back to Kingston. We'll send the women and the children and everyone else. They'll go back to Kingston, and then we'll have more troops there, and we'll be able to hopefully tie them off there. But what ended up happening was the Americans in the start of the war had a nasty habit of electing people to positions of officership based on political ties.
Yeah.
So, or people who had been involved in the revolution, who were around but that had outdated military experience. People like Dearborn.
Yep, Dearborn was one. Hull was another.
Hull?
Yeah.
Hull, yeah.
Had no business being there, really. But it's hard to say. You said a lot of people died in the battle, but you can look at the officers' notes for people like Dearborn, who are trying to save their political careers, who deliberately fudged the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know how many
people
actually died in that battle, because you're trying to make it look, oh no, only a few people die, we'll be fine. And, we had some wounded, but they're recovering. But basically what happened was the British had a skirmish the day before, and in their retreat, and near the front, as the legend goes, one of the locals was a cousin of William Henry Harrison. And so he, or a cousin of, might have been Madison. I'm pretty sure it was Harrison. Anyway, he It's not like me forget this kind of thing. Anyway, they let him go because of this connection, and he discovered the password to get past the sentries, so that he could go to his family, and allegedly passed this information off to the British. So the British were thinking, you know what, maybe kind of knew where the American positions kind of were and realized how disorganized they were. So they were trying to basically have a desperate night attack. But there's something interesting, is if you know a little bit about the American Revolution, there was a battle in the American Revolution where the British, same night battle, outnumbered. What they did was they took the flints out of their muskets and attached their bayonets. And their logic was, if they were to lead a bayonet charge, in the confusion and darkness, the Americans are going to fire at anyone opposing them that fires at them. But what they realized is now the only people who were firing were Americans. So
they were killing each other.
It was one of the deadliest massacres in the American Revolution, because it was all the American colonials firing at each other.
Yep.
So there's some thought that this is the kind of situation they were trying to recreate, just a confusion and night battle. So when they first attacked the American positions at Stony Creek, they had removed their flints. So they're being fired upon by American troops, and they're desperately trying to put their flints back in.
Oh my goodness!
Which I've done in daytime, and I can't even imagine being in daytime being fired at while doing it. But doing it in the middle in pitch black darkness is something else,
right?
But the Americans had positioned their artillery there along the path, but they'd not given them weapons.
Oh my goodness!
They'd not given the actual artillery people weapons, and they'd stationed some of their troops farther away. It wasn't normally you'd list out how you wanted the troops to be camped, but instead they just kind of let them park wherever they were.
Right.
Wow.
So they were able to take advantage of the disorganization and the fact that the artillery didn't have weapons. So they charged the main artillery battery in between shots and were able to take them as well as the American officers. And they think they captured 3 of the senior American officers.
Yep.
And what are you going to, you just lost your 3 highest officers. So the Americans were like, well, we'll just go back and ended up retreating.
Yep. And they did have the one advantage too of the two British generals who got lost in the woods. So.
You know what? We didn't. The British didn't have the greatest officers either, but they had.
No, they were better.
Had more junior officers who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And after Stony Creek is kind of a turning point in the U.S. military, because after that, I think the people in Washington sort of realized that some of these guys are a little bit senile. Mm-hmm. And then you had people like Winfield Scott, who a lot of people know he was in later wars. He ended up being a general, I believe.
Yep.
But he was at Stony Creek. And it's these kinds of more junior officers, they realized, okay, well, these guys actually kind of know what they're doing. And that's when they started training a more professional army and promoting these better officers.
Yep.
And by the end of the war, the American army was light years ahead of where it was at the beginning of the war. But they had long abandoned by that point the idea of a militia system as a national defense unit.
Yep.
They realized it wasn't possible because militia weren't trained, weren't organized, refused to march over borders.
They would break the line too, right?
Well, no, it wasn't so much that there was a conflict. They were as much devoted to their governors and their state as they were to the nation. So what Mark's saying is that they wouldn't, for example, march from New Hampshire into Massachusetts. One of the big things that they wouldn't do. And since he mentioned Dearborn, Dearborn's was the third and final attempt to attack into Canada, and his was in my opinion, the worst of them, of the failures, because 2/3 of his men refused to cross into Canada. They wouldn't cross the river into Canada, and he had no choice. He had to turn back and order a retreat. Never fought a single Brit. Never fired a single shot at the British. It's absolutely. You want to talk about embarrassment? Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah, we were not good fighters in 1812.
I got and the weaponry wasn't, well, it was obviously way outdated, but and you can only load a musket so fast. But I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I think, about I think it was Fort Erie, or might have been the artillery that exploded, the thing. I remember you guys were doing reenactment there, and you were telling me the story of the artillery battery that blew. Was that part of this war, or what happened there?
That was,
because I got it wrong for sure.
The British tried to retake Fort Erie. The Americans had captured it, and the British tried to retake. And then they had expanded the fortifications, mind you, well beyond what is there today. The modern is a reconstruction of an estimation of what the British encampment was near the start, closer to the start of the war.
Okay.
The British had
because that battery destroyed most of it, right?
A good chunk of the initial fort. What happened was they made the decision to turn cannons, turn field artillery against each other, like 40, 50 feet apart in the fort, which is not all that big. And
so essentially they blew themselves up.
One of the cannonballs went astray and hit the magazine, which killed
lots.
Devastating.
Yeah. Wow.
So in the reenactment, they have a pyrotechnics team that explodes the bastion in there, and they cover it with peat moss. And in my last reenactment battle was the 200th anniversary of Fort Erie, and this big chunk of wood flies over my head. So I'm taking a fall, right, because the bastion blew up. So I go down. I sunk down about, just almost to my knees. And the chunks of wood flies past my head, and I'm like, oh, okay. Someone didn't screen the peat moss, I guess.
No kidding. I guess they just didn't weren't standing.
Earlier in the battle, the one regiment was not dressed properly. So basically, if you look at the way a musket works, there's a piece of metal called the frizzen, and then there's a little arm that holds onto a piece of flint, which strikes down
into the pan,
hammer down into the frizzen and shoots sparks into the pan. And there's a little hole going into it to the barrel, which has an open end, obviously, and that's load the powder through the end, and it fires it. What happened was, if your ear is ahead of that lock, and you're going to feel the percussion from the pan. So, because just the percussion, even if it's not loaded with lead, just the percussion from the musket could kill you. But so that's why it's important to line up shoulders straight, so that you don't feel that concussion. But the group next to us wasn't dressed properly, and the command was given to fire, and it just blew my right eardrum out, and my right ear was ringing. So it was about 5 minutes, maybe a little less, and then this chunk went. I'm like,
oh shit!
They're trying to kill me.
What?
That sounds like two incidents in one reenactment battle. Yeah, I would say that's about time to do the cross and boogie off the field. Okay.
So I like to tell people
I'm going to McDonald's.
I was wounded in the Battle of Fort Erie.
Jeez.
And I have a little medal.
What are the casualties of war? That's funny.
But we obviously take it seriously. We try not to celebrate because there was a loss of life, and we took that seriously. But we also had little jokes among us. So one of the things we did was we gave an award to people who had driven to the event from the furthest away, an award to best death. So one guy,
Oh, that's cool.
I don't remember if it was that anniversary or if it was the year before, but it was at Fort Erie, and he had been climbing the hill leading up to the bastion and fell, and his bayonet falls out of his scabbard, rolls down the hill with him, and he lands on it.
Oh no!
Oh shit!
Yeah, goes to the hospital, gets patched up, comes back, and fights in the night battle. And they crazy. And yeah, they
That's insane.
That's dedication right there.
Right?
He was all
You
right,
guys
but
should
crazy.
You guys should go reenact next year. It's the first one in like 5 years, right? Or 4 years? 4 years?
No, they.
And can you explain? Can you
Fort
explain?
Erie
I was
was
trying to
just last
explain to them
weekend.
that they were stopping it. Can you explain that? Like I tried to explain, like the government didn't want it, or like the battles, they didn't want to reenact. They wanted to change the name.
It wasn't the council members itself. It was a staffer who had been involved in trying to organize activities in the future at Stony Creek. And this, I guess, person had decided. I just realized I don't have the chat open. I don't know if
We
I'm
got
allowed
people
to go
pulling
to it.
statues down, being morons. Like it's silly. Some of it I don't understand.
I generally support tearing down statues of politicians, regardless of who they are. There's almost here's my thing. Okay, just 2 seconds on the statue thing. I think statues are taller than us for a reason. They're on a pedestal because it's symbolic of people we should look up to. And I can think of almost very, very few politicians who resemble that. I can think of a lot of people who I might want, future generations to look up to. I'm thinking people like Terry Fox, Martin Luther King, just off the top of my head, Rick Hansen, I guess. But there's lots
Bill
of
Nye.
people.
That's cool.
I heard he's kind of jerk, to be honest. I heard he was kind of a jerk.
Is he? Oh shit!
But like
Penner
people
should
who
be
have done
a
important
statue.
things, who have made important discoveries. I'm thinking like scientists and philanthropers and all this. Important people have done good things, and I just can't think of any politicians who I'd symbolically tell future generations we should look up to this person. And but anyway, back to the Stony Creek thing. So I guess they decided that they didn't want to have a battle. I don't know if that was some sort of, we don't want to celebrate death, or if that was because it's a symbol of colonization and British soldiers. I'm not really sure why exactly the call. I can't say why they made that decision, but I certainly don't agree with the end result. But what worries me going forward is the city council had made a declaration saying, and city council had gathered together and passed a resolution in Hamilton that in the future there will be battles of Stony Creek.
Yeah.
Which sounds
after
good.
They took them away.
Sounds good, except now politicians are involved. And what we want is politicians to wear funny hats and wave and say hello and make boring speeches and then leave, and then we can continue the event that we organize.
Like they want to be involved in the battle? That's silly. They want to be involved in the battle? Or they just want to be involved with like how to run it, and that's
what I'm worried about, is that city council will have more involvement. And I'd like less involvement in city council.
Yeah.
I like the experts in history, unless one of the councilors happens to be a doctorate in history. I'd really like like historical experts from various, there are expert seamstresses and expert worked on Hollywood movies as a historical expert, and someone who's a geographer. Like there can be different. I don't mean conventionally just historical. From an academic standpoint, but people who have a passion for history should be involved in the planning of these events, not politicians.
Not to mention if they go into the reenactment and they have a spectacular death, I'm not sure any politician would like to set the vision in anybody's eyes of their own death, whether it be a reenactment or otherwise.
Yeah.
So, I'd have to agree with you. It's probably more for the planning and less for the acting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're jumping on ship.
We had a guy in my first unit that I joined who got in trouble at Stony Peak one year because his death was too real, and some of the public complained.
Really?
So, like the idea that it's glorifying war, there's always been that check in place to make sure it's respectable and not too gory.
Yeah.
Right.
Having said that,
you
I've
don't
heard
want
some
blood and
stories
guts
about
and
American Civil War reenactments that
they're crazy in
scare
the
me.
States.
I heard a story one time. I don't remember which battle. I don't know much about the Civil War, but so this guy, he was in my unit with me. He had been a reenactor for decades, right? And he said he was in the battle one time, and he's chit-chatting with the guy next to him, waving, handshake. And the battle goes off, and the artillery fires on the opposite side, and the guy's arm flies off. And,
oh my
red
God,
shoots
really?
out, and he's like, oh my God, and they fall down, and he looks at him, he's like, Jesus, are you? And he has his shirt, his hand tucks out from the bottom of his shirt, and he goes, and the whole thing was a fake arm. He had made this whole entire device.
Oh, snap.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. That's
they're hardcore out there.
Like, we don't do anything like that.
That's wow. That's cool. I don't know. That's
crazy.
Cool.
Like, they take that seriously down there.
That makes me think of what was the movie? FX.
FX.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's basically an old cop who was retired and kind of becomes a private detective and a special effects guy get involved in thwarting the mob from stealing a bunch of coins from the Vatican. And
oh shit!
A lot of it has to do with special effects and how they go about setting people up and messing with them. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Brian Dennehy is one of the main actors.
Okay.
Yeah, good
I've heard
movie.
of him.
Yeah, good movie. Good movie. But yeah, Mark, to the point of what you were saying about messing with the reenactments, our government's been doing the same thing, as far as trying to cut off anything Civil War-esque that celebrates the Confederacy.
Okay.
Because there's just huge groundswell of support for pulling down any of the Confederate statues, renaming any schools that were named after Confederate personnel, roads even. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
So I would support renaming school, like that side of it. I would, because it goes back to that thing. Like I think you name things after you put statues and paintings of people that you're supposed to look up to, and I don't see much of that in that war, in particular.
No, it was not. Yeah, it was not a bright point in our history.
But the reenacting side of it, that's where I would say that's reenactor. You can't, especially children. It's very hard, and everyone learns differently. But it's very hard to learn history just dry from a book. There's a few of us that love reading books about history, but most people have to see it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the only place where you can see that history is Hollywood, and they get stuff. Look at The Patriot. That's awful, the worst movie. Like, it's horribly inaccurate. And
The Patriot.
Yeah, it takes like a minute to load that particular
Trust
model
the French.
Bucket, and they're like firing multiple shots, and but like
yeah.
But Hollywood does not have the greatest track record of being accurate. Whereas reenactors will argue among themselves about, what kind of stitching is in your uniform and where you got your wool from. So if you want an accurate depiction of what it's like, it's not going to be 100%, but you're better off going to a reenactment.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that
Yeah,
it's so
absolutely.
important, even for touchy battles and things. I think that's a thing to keep
Well,
around for sure.
yeah, the whole thing I've crowed about, and yes, I've crowed about it, is the fact that you start ripping down statues, you start banning these things. Admittedly, it's not. It's from one of our
Hey,
darker
boss, much
parts of
love.
history. But if you start erasing that history, it's doomed to happen again. And that's the thing, if you do not learn from history, you will repeat the same mistakes that you made in the past over and over and over. And, hey, everybody wants to feel warm and fuzzy and be happy about, what we've done in the past. But the whole thing is, you know, quite frankly, we've fucked up and, made as much a mess things as anybody else has.
But that's
Um,
mankind. That's human beings.
it
That's
is.
it's
And
still your history.
you have to embrace the good and the bad.
Hmm.
You have to learn from our history. We have to learn from our mistakes. Or you will be doomed to repeat them again. And what we're doing right now, this big groundswell of trying to erase, as much of the Confederacy as possible. We're gonna have another issue somewhere down the line. We've already done something incredibly stupid by overturning Roe v. Wade, and I know there's going to be a bunch of people that'll crucify me for that.
What is Roe v. Wade?
It's
What is that?
it's the right for a woman to have an abortion.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, and quite frankly, again,
That's
I'm
like
not
an
going to say
opinion based thing, right?
I'm not going to say whether I favor it or not, because I don't want to end up with a whole bunch
Hmm.
of hate mail or anything else. But
Hmm.
the whole thing is before that became a thing, there was a lot of bad stuff going on. Women in bad situations.
Right.
Um, where they had no choices. It was before we had recognized women on an equal basis, to men with respect to jobs. And even though it's not 100%, I see it as a big back step to going back towards what was going on during the Civil War and right after that. Before women had rights, as many rights as they did. And uh, because there's so much of the U.S. that's polarized one way or the other on this, they lit a powder keg when they did this,
Hmm.
and it's going to end up ugly if they don't figure
Yeah.
out how to get a hold on it. We've got some states that have already said, well, hell, we're going to ban it altogether, and you got people that are bailing out of those states and going to the states that are still in support of it.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's like just.
it's going
There's
to be a
always going to
thing.
be a hot topic. Like always. Like the death penalty was a hot topic.
Yep.
Like just it's always something, and you can't please everyone because everybody has their own opinion, right?
Yep.
So what do you do?
Yeah. So, well, we go back to the War of 1812, which is what we're supposed to be doing. And why we got Mark
Yes.
here. That's
1812.
right.
Let's go.
Mark's the man. So keep going, sir.
You got any fascinating tidbits for us, Mark?
Uh,
Any fun facts? Any
oh, loads of them. There's a lot that comes from that era, not just the War of 1812, but from that era that people watching this may not realize. The American anthem
yeah.
was based on lyrics written during the siege at Fort McHenry
Yep.
at Baltimore, and he was basically, I think he was a lawyer, as I recall, who was on a ship
Scott. Yep.
in the harbor, just
Yep.
outside the harbor.
Yep.
And if you read the full poem, it's basically describing the battle. Um,
Hmm.
so that's interesting. I was almost involved
That's
in the
cool.
reenactment. They were going to have a big deal down there for the 200th. And we even were in discussion about figuring out how to do White House tours in full kit.
Oh, no
Oh
kidding.
wow.
And I'm thinking about that's cool, but I'm carrying 3 pounds of black powder.
Yeah.
They're going to let me in the White House?
Yeah, the White House.
The door, please. And it was funny, is we were saying amongst ourselves, the last time redcoats were in the White House, we had torches in our hands. And then they started getting, there was an internal argument within our group that led to a falling out of certain members, and that's where it kind of spiraled. I don't know if that would have eventually ended up happening. They did have a reenactment, but the kinds of stuff we were talking about, the guided tours and the meeting certain dignitaries and stuff, didn't end up happening. But they told us that during the battle that they wanted the scale they wanted originally was, to people involved in Congress, where they were going to have a trained sniper on all of us, just in case anyone went rogue with a flintlock musket.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could be standing 25 feet from the president and aim, and I wouldn't hit anything.
Wow.
So, and I'm like, we have smooth bores. None of us had rifle barrels, so you're safe. Trust me. But so there's the American anthem. There's expressions that come from it. So like, you ever heard of someone being hot shot? That comes from that era. So they
don't give up the ship.
Cannonballs would heat up. They would heat the cannonballs red hot, so that when they launched them into the fort, hopefully they would hit a wooden building and light on fire. So someone that's like hot or high powered, high energy individual is considered hot. So that's what that expression comes from.
Yep.
Or there's
cool.
lock, stock, and barrel. About the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. That's also the same thing. The lock, the stock, and barrel were the 3 parts of the musket, and they were assembled at the Tower of London. Yep. So when you had all 3, you had the whole thing. I'm trying to think of what else.
You got don't give up the ship from the Navy.
So don't give up the ship.
Yeah, it was another one where the Chesapeake was involved in another fight and actually got tore up worse. But the captain of the Chesapeake was dying. He got mortally wounded, and as he died, he told his men, "Don't give up the ship." Well, unfortunately, about 10 minutes later, a few minutes later, they were overwhelmed by the British, and they actually did give up the ship. But that's where that phrase came from.
There was that discussion a few years ago about the Cleveland baseball team renaming themselves, and I was disappointed that they chose the Guardians, because I felt they should have been the Admirals. Because you have Oliver Hazard Perry, who is a naval commander, and the history of that area, of Ohio and area. If he hadn't won his victory in the Battle of Lake Erie, the entire war would have been different. Yeah, it changes the entire war. If the British have naval superiority at Lake Erie, then they're in full retreat. They retreated all the way back to Burlington Heights, and southwestern Ontario was basically a burning ground for the U.S. military. That was all the farms, all the mills, all done. They were all burned down. So you have all that territory feeding the British war effort. And then you captured the American fleet on Lake Erie as well, so you can have support for future campaigns, right, into Ohio. Yeah. Although the Battle of Meigs, when they tried to take Fort Meigs, that was a disaster. So,
and that was actually really the first major disaster that the British suffered, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, yeah.
What happened there?
Everyone points out the Battle of New Orleans, though, which technically happened after the war had ended, but there was another battle after that. It was the Battle of now I refer it as the Battle of Mobile Bay, which I realize refers to a different battle chronologically. It was another battle later on.
What's up, BS?
I'm trying to remember the name of the fort, but it was a fort at the end of Mobile Bay, and the British had taken it about 2 weeks after New Orleans. And if the war had continued, it basically cuts off by land and sea that entire territory. So the British basically have retained control of New Orleans and the entire area.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
But there's a family legend in our family. I don't know if you know this, Chris.
What's that? Oh, I gotta hear this one.
Our fourth great grandfather was at the Battle of Kingston Heights, which kind of checks out because he was on the enlistment rolls for the militia unit that was there.
Oh, shit.
But doesn't necessarily mean he was at the battle. He was in the militia at that time in the same area. But the family story is that through a different branch, obviously. But the story is that he was at the Battle of Kingston Heights, where Isaac Brock fell, and picked up his pistol. He wasn't carrying a pistol, but he picked up his pistol or his sword after he fell. And then when they retreated, right? So that's kind of interesting. The whole thing is cool. He wouldn't have had a pistol on him, but it's kind of interesting tidbit. But another thing is that my wife, Lauren, her fourth great grandfather was in the exact same unit. So I like to think that they were buddies.
Yeah, there you go.
What's the likelihood that the two of you would have ended up together from that?
Right?
That's pretty wild.
Well, the thing is,
we got a comedian in the chat there, guys. Yeah.
It was like
he's trying to be funny.
Well, until 1815, so it's a funny joke, but it's multiple years. So
yeah.
And then both sides at the end just kind of shrugged and went, "You guys want to fight anymore? No, okay. Let's go back to the way it was. Sorry for all your farms burning down. Sorry about that.
Didn't mean to do that.
My bad. Like, do you remember? If you remember the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, have you ever seen it? And Lancelot was charging into the castle and killing everyone, and everyone kills the bride's father, and then at the end they work it out, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, sure, let's go." And then they're like, he's apologizing for all the people that he's killed. Everyone's all peaceful. That reminds me of the War of 1812 to a T, because at the end they were just like. There was still tension for some time. They were still negotiating borders and stuff like that.
Yep.
To the point where in the 20s, the British had plans to. In the 1820s, the British had plans to build a massive fort in what is now the area of Short Hills Provincial Park.
Shit.
In southern Ontario. Fly.
Have a couple of those.
Just in case of American invasion.
Yeah.
So. The tension continued, but eventually railroads happened. They were just like, makes more sense to trade with each other.
So essentially, it was a war that didn't even need to happen.
Well,
they could have just talked it out.
I would say so. I would say if the telephone existed then, it would have been a lot easier to avoid things.
Yeah.
Because the American army that invaded through Fort Detroit and Sandwich, or what is now Windsor, was sent before the war was declared. Basically, the British were like, "We don't like these things that you're doing," and the British were like, "Okay, well, we'll stop doing most of them, and we'll talk about the rest." And then the British were like, and the Americans were like, "Oh, okay." And by a month ago, they had already sent the army out, right? So it's an unfortunate thing where I like to think if communication was better, this maybe could have been avoided. On the other hand, that's maybe a little naive. I think there were a lot of people in the Republican Party at that time who just wanted to invade Canada because of manifest destiny. Right? Britain was never going to sell it. So.
Well, but on the flip side, Hull was the general that initially had Fort Detroit with that, and when I kind of like, have you ever watched Dances with Wolves?
Yeah.
With Kevin Costner. Okay, you remember when Kevin Costner gets out to the last fort and he's asking for his orders to go out, and the guy says he's sending him on a night's journey. That commander kind of reminds me of the way they describe Hull, who's about as useful as a diet crouton.
Diet crouton.
The funny thing is the Indians and the British and the Canadians marched down on Fort Detroit, and Hull had no clue until literally a British soldier knocked at the door and presented him with an order to surrender. And and at that point he's like, and they start firing away, and he just kind of collapses and gives everything up.
Right.
That was a beautiful example of how shitty our generals were.
There's a letter, and I don't know if you've ever read it, but you guys should go read it. It's a letter from Isaac Brock, the British general, to William Hull, basically saying, "Hey, there's a lot of First Nations people here. I can't control them, and they're crazy." Like he doesn't believe us for a second. He had a good relationship with Tecumseh, but he's just like, I can't control them, and they're crazy. So, you should surrender the fort to avoid a massacre. And meanwhile, it's a complete bluff, and he just bluffed. And I like to think of it as the British going boogity boogity boogity. And William,
yeah.
Once again, Monty Python.
Boogity boogity boogity.
Robin ran away.
And Hull gives up, and he gets some of his troops make it away, but more of them get captured, and Hull gets marched all the way up through where was it in Canada that Brock marched him up to publicly before they let him go.
I don't know.
So
imagine they would have taken him to Fort George. I don't know if he ever made it to Kingston. I don't know if they.
Yeah, they weren't specific. Nothing that I found was specific on it, but basically they march him through the streets as a loser, and then let him go. And James Madison, God love him, being the gentleman, he was a brilliant man, but he did not have the stomach for a lot of things. Might have been different if we had a different president at the time. But James Madison let him, instead of trying him, letting him be tried and court-martialed, he basically sends him home to live in disgrace. And it's like, wow. Yeah.
There was another fort.
We were not good. we were nowhere near ready for a fight.
So when I mentioned that, when they had sent that army up to Detroit to take Canada through what is now Windsor,
right?
The British actually intercepted one of the dispatches they captured.
Oh.
So the British, even though the Americans had declared war because of the distance and logistics that were difficult at the time, the British in the area knew about the war before the Americans did. Detroit did. So they were able to send people in a canoe. I think it was voyageurs. No, not voyageurs. Voyageurs or fur traders up to Fort Mackinac, Fort Mitchell and Mackinac. Up what is northern Michigan now. And basically they showed up at the door with a dozen fur traders and British soldiers, and they go, "Hey, we're at war. We're going to take your fort now." And they just went, "Okay."
Fort now.
They had no idea the war was on, so they just took it without firing a shot.
Yep, pulled it down. The Union Jack was up like 5 minutes later. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, dude. It's funny. The more I read this past week about it, the more embarrassing now. When we flip side and go over to World War II, it's going to be a different story.
Right?
But yeah, 1812. Wow, we were. I hate to use
all over the
word
place.
pathetic.
I made a joke.
But we were disorganized and pathetic as hell.
I made a joke. Chris here told me that you guys were going to do he said, we're going to do a 4-part series on World War II. And I said, great, the Americans can show up in part 3.
The Americans show up in part 3.
See, now we
That's
gotta
funny.
get your brother together with Scott, because you know Scott's gonna have something to say about that.
Right? That's our
It's
Brit
funny.
friend.
It's funny you say that, Mark, because that was kind of one of the big things Scott was talking about last week was, oh, it's always all about the Americans. Everything's the Americans showed up and kicked everybody's ass, and nothing else is important, And it's like,
Yeah,
oh, dude, I
he
feel
made
so
a
bad.
funny about Independence Day, the movie. He
Yeah.
said when they figured out how to take the planes down, they called Britain, and they're like, "Oh, America's on the phone! Bloody hell, it's about time!" Like they were just sitting there doing nothing, waiting for America to figure it out.
Yeah. So we gotta definitely make sure
I
that
thought it was
we get
funny.
all sides in on this, because we've got some Aussie friends that are in the
Yeah.
chat here, and I'm trying to go back and find more.
Mhm.
There's a couple of really good incidents of Australian battles, where
Oh wow!
the
In World War II,
Australians. Oh yeah, dude.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know they had an army. They had these boomerangs and
Oh,
shit.
dude. I'm gonna
See
tell you
right
what. I'm gonna tell you
Oh, the
what.
Anzacs were crazy,
The
especially in World
Australians,
War One.
dude. The Australians were. They were
They
nothing.
can
They were
go,
no
eh?
joke. They were no joke to mess with. Well,
Oh
think about
shit!
it. Think about it. They live in more of a Wild West type country at that point,
Yeah, yeah,
along with the Aborigines, and a lot of them are learning, Aboriginal ways and whatnot. So you have a mixture between, our tough, gritty Wild West cowboys, and that several of them having knowledge like of Indian, Indian practices and works as well. So you've got guys who can duke it out in formations, but can also be guerrilla fighters and are just as effective either way.
right,
Now, you flip that tactic back and forth on an attacking or a defending army, and that sucks because you don't know what the hell you're gonna defend or fight against. You have
right.
no idea what's coming at you, or when, or how, or what. And I'm gonna tell you what, as far as toughness goes, these guys were tough as nails.
Tough as
I mean,
nails.
they were hard. They were hard. They were rock hard. On the flip side, I also personally want to make sure that we also get a little bit of my other heritage, which is the Czechoslovakians involved,
Oh
because
wow.
there was a nasty little thing about a town where they found a bunch of Czechs that were involved in the underground and the resistance, and they lined everybody in the town up, forced and broke their hands in doing it, forced their hands through chain link fences, breaking their hands, uh, and
Wow.
and then gunned down men, women, and children.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So,
That's
um,
horrible.
yeah. So when you talk World War II, I probably have one of the hardest things because I'm half German and half Czechoslovakian. So I am constantly at war with myself.
Chris, I don't want to interrupt, but my phone is going to die at 2%. I cut out. Don't mind me here.
Ruh-roh.
No worries,
I'm,
buddy. Do you want to be involved with the World War II
maybe
series?
we'll play it by ear because my schedule's
Okay.
a little crazy the next week or
Okay.
two.
Yeah,
All right, let me know.
I'd love to hear your input on it, Mark. If you can arrange for it,
Let me know.
that'd be cool.
We're gonna cap it off at the end with the Manhattan Project, which I'm so excited for.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Dr. Manhattan on the thumbnail just to.
Yeah, that's
That's
there's gonna be some stuff that's gonna twist you up inside when we go through that.
That's cool.
Some of the stuff we did, again, not part of our best hour. Oh, I think we just lost him.
I think we lost him. Oh, that's all right.
Rats. So.
Oh, Well, that was interesting.
Yeah. So I guess we missed out on Scott.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I sent him the link. I didn't hear from him, so we'll see.
In all fairness, we were supposed to go down and do the crawl this morning.
All right, that's right.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure we were going to make it back in time, but
oh, I'm sorry.
No, dude, please. Mama slept in, and I was studying and also trying to get some other stuff done.
Right on.
So yeah, when we get done with this, I got chores.
Oh, that's fun.
Hey, you got to help.
Yeah, that's it.
So, otherwise, Mama gets mad. Not a good thing. Angry Mama.
No, we don't want any part of that.
Angry Beaver's bad thing.
Yeah, I know this.
That'll start that'll start the teeth up. Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Oh shit. Well, we can cut this one for this week if we want. I don't know.
I don't have a whole heck of a lot other than the fact that the British ended, because I didn't get all the way to the end of it. I hate to tell you, I was watching different videos and movies and different stuff to try and get as much on it as I could.
Britain went to France, and that's about as much as I know. And then we just kind of worked it out.
Yeah,
Chuck's getting the frying pan. Right on, Chuck.
What?
He's getting the frying pan down in chat there. Someone's getting smoked with it. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Not me. I didn't do it. That's cool though. We'll cut this one. We've been on for an hour. Next week is World War II beginning, right?
It is.
I got to do a thumbnail for that. I know Scott's real excited for that one, so
well, he better be here. Otherwise, I'm going to start in. Have to use my bad Cockney accent.
Right, because that's the beginning, right? Britain started it, and that's what we got to go with.
Britain did not start it. Britain was the only thing that stopped it. No, what started it was the Germans tiptoeing into, as I remember, Poland, almost like overnight, and then like a bunch of thieves in the night, and just Poland fell.
Right.
And that kind of started things off. They were like, "Oh, this is going to be easy, no problem." Yeah, so that was actually.
I got this. French. Let's go.
Yeah, that was more French than anything. Sorry. So, yeah. So, but I specifically wore my red shirt today. For the part of the naval part of the Battle of the War of 1812. So it's the captain facing off against British frigate, and Captain Lookout goes, Captain, it's a British ship on the horizon. Captain goes, go get me my red shirt. So, crewman goes down, gets him his red shirt, puts his red shirt on. The battle ensues, back and forth all day, and at the end of the day, the Americans have won. As they're sitting around, celebrating and healing the wounded, first mate looks at him and he goes, Captain, I don't understand. Beginning of the battle, you asked me to go get your red shirt. Why? And Captain goes, because if I got wounded, the men would not notice the blood and they would fight on. First mate goes, okay, that makes pretty good sense. I can deal with that. So couple of mornings later, the lookout at the top, Captain, 10 British ships on the horizon. Captain looks at the first mate and goes, go get me my brown pants.
Go get me my brown pants, like he's gonna shit himself.
Exactly.
That's funny. Exactly. That is funny.
So
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, all right then. We'll leave it on that.
Yeah, ladies
leave
and
it on the funny side.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Hope we brought enough of the War of 1812 for you.
A little bit.
Feel free to ask questions and comments, and we'll answer what more we can.
Absolutely. And next week starts our four-part series we're doing, or
I think
four part or
I think
three
we
part?
do it as a 4-part. Yeah. So
4-part series on the World War II.
yep.
So stay tuned for that. You're not gonna want to miss that.
Yep. So the next week will be the events leading up to and the beginning of World War II. And then I think we said the week after that is going to be Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
And the Americans entering the war. The week after that is basically the fall of Europe and the Nazis.
Yep.
And then we wrap it up with the Manhattan Project.
In the end,
The
yeah,
end of
that's
the end of the
perfect.
war. Yeah. So
All right. Sweet.
lots,
I'm gonna make
lots,
thumbnails for
lots, and
those.
lots, lots, and lots and lots to cover, guys.
Oh yeah.
Lots and lots and lots to cover. We will have tidbits, especially. I will tell you now. Do not miss the part on the Manhattan Project.
Mm.
It has been a specific thing that I have studied. I've got all kinds of photos and little tidbits, good, bad, and otherwise. You guys will get a kick out of it. Hey, Laura Lee.
Laura Lee's in the
So,
building.
yep, the wind talkers will factor into that. As a matter of fact, Spitfire. That will be probably either towards the end of the second week when the Americans get into the war, or the third week at the beginning of before the fall of Europe, because the wind talkers were a big part. It's kind of like our version of the Enigma machine.
Oh, okay.
As far as the Axis evil forces were.
Oh shit.
They had their Enigma machine, and we had the American Indians. And
Oh,
yeah, I'm
that's
sorry.
cool.
I think ours was a little more badass.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be prejudice,
Apaches
but
and stuff.
so be it. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
That's cool.
yep,
I'm looking forward to that for sure.
yeah,
You
yeah.
guys should be too.
It's
It's
gonna be
gonna
a
be
thing.
good.
There will be photos. There will be tidbits, snippets, general history. There will be specific history. There will be stuff you probably never knew and didn't want to know.
Right?
So, and beats the bloody hell out of me what we're going to do after that.
Mm.
So,
I think I'm gonna do a poll on my community page. We'll do a poll on what if anybody wants a topic or they want to talk about for history. I'll do a poll or something.
I mean,
We'll figure it out.
there's a ton of other history. The other fun one we could go into that I did a lot of studying on is medieval times.
Oh, that yeah,
So
yeah.
I could
I could get down with some medieval times.
I could gag a few maggots with medieval medicine.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah. Let's go
yeah.
with that.
And I promise I will not spare the details, because you
Will there
have
be
to.
refreshments?
I don't think you're going to want refreshments for the medieval
I'll
part.
take a Pepsi.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see anybody eating or drinking much during that, especially when I do medieval medicine. That was oof. Spitfire. That'd be cool. Yeah. Let's see about getting Spitfire up here.
Spitfire's welcome to come up here.
Sure. Absolutely. That would be a perfect lead in for next week, Spitfire.
Oh yeah.
That would be awesome.
That's perfect.
We'll call it BYOC. How about that, Northern? So
yeah.
Bring your own coffee.
Bring your own coffee. Yeah, I'll have mine.
So I'll have to grind up one of the special blends.
There you go.
The blended Nicaraguan Honduran.
Take a Pepsi after medieval talk with Jason.
Yeah,
you're gonna need some Pepto or something.
You're gonna need it. You're gonna need it. It was our medicine these days. Yeah, it's nice, clean, and pretty compared to even when you see some of the blood and gore on some of the movies. It's nice compared to what Leeches was a big part of it. And it wasn't just to stop help bleeding, but we'll save that because, like I said,
I'll get into it.
yeah, there's
Oh, yeah.
there's plenty.
To be continued.
Plenty. Yes. Getting grossed out. How about that?
I'll do the thumbnail World War II, the beginning. That'll be next week.
Cool.
Next Sunday. And we'll go from there.
That'll work.
Yeah. I'm going to go get some lunch.
Enjoy.
Figure out dinner.
Pizza bites with cheese sauce. So.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, little thing from the country, little thing from the Country Comfort channel. Stumbled across this about a month ago. You get pizza bites, and doesn't matter which version. One thing I found there's never enough of in pizza bites is cheese. So make yourself a plate full of the pizza bites, and get one of the jars of Totino's cheese sauce. Spoon about 3 or 4 spoons into a little bowl, a little bowl like this.
Yeah.
And dip your pizza bites into the cheese sauce. Yeah, buddy.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
If you like it spicy, make it the medium level cheese sauce.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try that for sure.
Add a little bite.
Yeah,
It ain't gonna help you lose any weight. I'll tell you that now.
No.
But not all comfort food does. So. All right, guys.
All right.
Oh,
well, you guys have a good day.
Corn dog, you could dip in that cheese sauce too.
Oh yeah, that cheese sauce sounds like it goes with a lot of things. Like I could just dip Doritos in it. Let's go! Oh shit! I had a typical Sunday dinner: roast taters and carrots. That's what's up. What having pulled pork tonight?
I will be making the cheeseburger meatloaf tonight.
Oh.
So I got the I got the video snippets for the here we go. The video snippets on my cell phone for the
sweet
sausages and pierogies from last night. So that's just
nice.
It's just gonna be a shorty.
Yeah,
I think
cool.
I'll have Misty put that together if she can.
Sweet.
Yep. And then we'll video the cheeseburger meatloaf tonight and do that one. So
that sounds so good. I can't wait to try that.
We'll have that for next Saturday. So
nice.
Yepers.
Right.
Yepers. So and I think we'll probably do spaghetti squash as the side with it.
Oh, there you go.
So
I should get down with spaghetti squash.
Yep.
All right, peeps.
Little butter on that, little salt, and a lot of pepper.
A lot of pepper.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just, to me, that's what goes with spaghetti squash is pepper. So, look.
That's good. Oh, brisk. That's brisk, baby. Iced tea or sweet tea. See, that's all we get here. We don't have sweet tea. Iced tea. Brisk. Comes in a bottle.
It's all right.
My mom's like, you can make that at home.
We get smart water. Let's see.
Oh yeah, we got that too. Yeah. Does it make you smarter?
It hasn't worked on me yet, so
Not me either.
Still drinking more of
it. I'd probably bail earlier. Ride to grocery store happens. So mistake in my place. All invited. I'm on my way. Life. Let's go. And I want the beer and the whole damn truth also.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Steak night. Yeah, waiting impatiently for that to resume here.
Oh, shit. All right, peeps. I'm going to call it for the day.
Yep.
I'm going to go eat. I'll be around later somewhere. I don't know if I'm going live tonight. I'll be around.
Yeah,
love you guys.
If you do go live, throw links out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As always, thank you, Jason.
My pleasure.
Little brother Mark, thank you for coming up.
Indeed.
Don't miss out next week, guys.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. We'll get him on a StreamYard. You can.
Next 4 weeks, it's going to be a blast.
It's going to be a ride. Let's go, peeps.
Yippers.
All right. We'll see you real soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.